Went to family dinner, discovered my brother stole $3,800 from our parents, watched him get confronted by loan sharks, and learned my family has been lying to me for months. Okay, Reddit. I need to get this off my chest because I literally cannot even write now. This happened yesterday and I'm still processing what the actual hell I witnessed. I'm Michael, 26M, my brother Jake is 24M. Our parents are in their early 60s. Dad's been out of work since his accident last year. Mom works part-time at a grocery store. Money's been tight, but we're close. Or at least I thought we were. Every Tuesday I go to my parents' house for dinner. It's been our thing for like 2 years now, ever since Dad got hurt and couldn't work anymore. Usually it's just the four of us, nothing fancy. Mom makes her famous meatloaf, we catch up. Dad complains about his physical therapy, normal family stuff. Yesterday started normal. I pulled up to their house around 6 p.m., same as always. But something felt off immediately. First red flag, the front door was unlocked. My mom is obsessed with home security ever since there were break-ins in their neighborhood. She literally checks the locks 3 times before bed. I walked in and called out like usual, but instead of Mom's cheerful, we're in the kitchen. I heard hushed voices coming from the dining room, angry whispers, the kind of conversation that stops when someone walks in. I should have left. I should have pretended I forgot something in my car and gotten the hell out of there. But no, curiosity killed the cat and all that. I walked into the dining room and my brain just stopped working. There were 5 people sitting around our old dining table. Mom and Dad in their usual spots, both looking like they'd aged 10 years since last week. Jake was there too, which was weird because he never comes to Tuesday dinners. Says he's too busy with work. Spoiler alert, this was a lie. But the real WTF moment was the 2 strangers sitting at our table. One was this woman in her 40s wearing all black, looked like she could bench press my car. The other was a guy around my age in an expensive suit that probably cost more than my rent. Michael, Mom said when she saw me, and her voice was shaking. You're early. No, I'm exactly on time like always, I said, still trying to process what I was seeing. What's going on? Who are these people? The silence that followed was deafening. You know that moment in movies where everything goes quiet and you can hear everyone's heartbeat? It was like that, except this was my actual life. Finally, suit guy speaks up. You must be the brother. His voice was calm, professional, like he was commenting on the weather. Jake's told us a lot about you. I'm sorry, who the fuck are you? I asked. Yes, I swore in front of my parents, sue me. That's when Jake finally looked at me, and guys, I've never seen my brother look so defeated. This is the same kid who once convinced our entire family he was sick to get out of school, then got caught at the mall by our neighbor. He's always been a good liar. But not yesterday. Sarah, Jake started, then just stopped. Like his brain blue screened, suit guy took over. Your brother owes us money, quite a bit of money actually. We're here to discuss repayment options. How much money? I asked, though part of me already knew I didn't want the answer. $53,000. I'm pretty sure my soul left my body for a second. 53,000? What the hell, Jake? That's when everything came out. And by everything, I mean everything. Turns out my responsible little brother has had a gambling problem for over a year. Started small sports betting with friends, casual poker games, but it escalated quickly. Online casinos, underground poker rooms, betting on literally anything he could find odds for. He'd been hiding it from everyone, including me. When he lost his savings, he started borrowing. First from friends, then from shadier sources, then from the kind of people who send representatives to your family dinner to discuss repayment options. But here's the part that really messed me up. 3 weeks ago, when he was completely desperate and in deep with these people, Jake took $3,800 from our parents' checking account. The money Dad had been saving for his medical procedures. My parents found out last week when Dad's surgery got canceled because they couldn't pay for it. I just sat there listening to all this, feeling like I was in some alternate reality. This was my family. My brother who used to look up to me, who I taught how to throw a football. My parents who taught us right from wrong and sacrificed everything for us. So what happens now? I finally asked. Suit guy smiled, but it wasn't friendly. Well, that depends on your family's commitment to making this right. Then he started talking about payment plans and interest rates and what happens to people who don't pay their debts. I won't repeat all of it, but let's just say it wasn't a conversation you want to have over meatloaf. The worst part was watching my parents. Dad just stared at the table the whole time, probably calculating how many years of his disability payments it would take to pay this off. Spoiler, more years than he has left. Mom kept apologizing to everyone, to the strangers, to me, to Jake, to the universe in general. At some point, Jake started crying. Not like movie crying, ugly, snotty, full-body sobbing. He kept saying he was sorry, that he never meant for it to go this far, that he had a system that was going to work. "I thought I could win it back," he kept repeating. "I thought I could fix everything before anyone found out." Because that's how gambling addiction works, right? There's always going to be that one big win that fixes everything, except it never comes. The meeting, if you can call it, that lasted about 2 hours. By the end, my parents had agreed to a payment plan that's going to financially destroy them. They're going to lose the house. Dad's medical care is indefinitely postponed. Mom's going to have to find a second job at 62 years old, all because my brother thought he could beat the system. After suit guy and scary woman left, we just sat there in silence. What do you even say in that situation? Pass the potatoes. How about this weather? Finally, Jake looked at me and said, "I know you hate me now." And honestly, part of me did. Part of me wanted to scream at him, to ask him how he could be so selfish, so stupid, so reckless with other people's lives. But mostly I just felt sad. Sad for my parents who don't deserve this. Sad for Jake, who clearly needs help he's never going to ask for. Sad for our family that's never going to be the same. "I don't hate you," I told him. "But I don't know who you are anymore." I left after that. Drove home in complete silence, sat in my car in my driveway for like an hour just trying to process everything. The thing that keeps messing with me is how normal everything seemed on the surface. Like, if you'd told me yesterday morning that my Tuesday family dinner was going to involve loan sharks and family betrayal, I would have laughed at you. But here's where it gets even worse. I couldn't sleep that night, obviously. I kept replaying everything in my head, trying to figure out how I missed all the signs. So around 2 a.m., I decided to do some digging. I went through Jake's social media. His Venmo transactions were connected, anything I could find. And guys, the signs were everywhere. How did I miss this? Looking back at his Instagram from the past year, there were subtle changes. Photos from expensive restaurants when he claimed to be broke. New clothes, new shoes, always with some excuse about getting a good deal or friend hooked me up. Posts from casinos that I thought were just him having fun with friends, but now I realize he was there way too often. His Venmo was even worse. Hundreds of small transactions to people with names like Lucky Tony and Big Bet Mike. Payments for things like dinner and gas money, but always in weird rounded amounts like $200, $500, $750. Classic money laundering 101. The most damning evidence was a group chat I found on his phone. He left it at our parents' house. I know I shouldn't have looked, but I was desperate for answers. The messages went back 8 months. 8 fucking months of him lying to everyone. Screenshots of betting apps, discussions about sure thing games, strategies for beating the house. And towards the end, increasingly desperate messages about needing money just to get even. One message from 3 weeks ago made my blood run cold. "Guys, I did something really bad. Took money from my parents, but I have a system now. I can win it back before they notice." Spoiler alert, his system didn't work. I confronted him the next morning, drove to his apartment, which, by the way, is way nicer than anything he should be able to afford on his supposed salary. He answered the door looking like death warmed over. "We need to talk," I said, pushing past him into his place. "Michael, I can explain. Can you? Can you really explain how you stole money from our father's medical fund to feed your gambling addiction?" That's when he broke down completely. Not the performance crying from the night before, but genuine, soul-crushing despair. He told me everything. It started during COVID lockdowns. He was bored, stuck at home, and someone introduced him to online poker. "Just for fun," he said. "Something to do." He was actually pretty good at first, won a few $100 here and there, but then he started losing. And like every gambling addict in history, he convinced himself that the losses were just bad luck, that his winning streak was right around the corner. So he bet bigger to make up for the losses. Classic gambling addiction spiral. Win a little, lose a lot. Chase the losses with bigger bets, lose even more. Rinse and repeat until you're 53 grand in the hole to people who break kneecaps for a living. "I never meant for it to get this bad," he kept saying. "I had it under control." Taking money from Dad's medical fund is having it under control. He couldn't look at me. I was going to put it back. I had this sure thing, this game where I knew the outcome. I was going to triple the money and put it all back before anyone noticed. "Jake, there are no sure things in gambling. That's literally the point." But here's the thing that really got to me. He still believed it. Even after everything, even after watching our parents agree to a payment plan that's going to destroy them financially, he still talked about gambling like it was a viable solution. I know a guy who won 50 grand last week on a single bet, he said. If I could just get some seed money. Stop. I had to cut him off before I said something I'd regret. Do you hear yourself right now? You're talking about gambling more money while our parents are about to lose their house. That seemed to snap him back to reality a little bit. He started crying again, apologizing, saying he knew he had a problem and needed help. So I did what any good big brother would do. I tried to help him. I spent the next few hours researching gambling addiction resources. Found a support group that meets twice a week, therapists who specialize in addiction, even a program that helps with financial planning for recovery. I thought I was being helpful. I thought this was rock bottom and the only way forward was up. I was wrong. 2 days later, Mom called me crying. Jake had asked her for $500, claiming he needed it for therapy sessions. She gave it to him because she felt guilty about the whole situation and wanted to support his recovery. Guess where that money went? If you guessed straight to an online poker site, you win the prize. I found out because Jake called me at 3 a.m., drunk and sobbing, saying he'd lost the therapy money and now owed even more to the scary people. They want their payment early, he slurred into the phone. They said if I don't have the first installment by Friday, they're going to start adding interest. How much is the first installment? 15 grand. My heart sank. Our parents didn't have 15 grand. They barely had 1,500 after paying their regular bills. That's when Jake dropped the final bombshell. I told them you'd help. You what? I told them my big brother has a good job and a house and could help with the payments. They want to meet with you. I'm pretty sure I blacked out for a second. When I came back to consciousness, I was screaming into the phone about how he had no right to involve me in his mess. How dare he put me in danger? What the hell was wrong with him? But damage was done. These people now knew about me, knew where I lived. Apparently Jake had given them my address and expected me to be part of the solution. I didn't sleep that night either. I spent hours online researching what happens to families of gambling addicts, what these kinds of people do when they don't get paid, whether I should call the police. Spoiler, that just makes things worse. By morning, I had made a decision that I'm still not sure was right. I called Suit Guy. The conversation was surreal, very polite, very professional, like we were discussing a business loan instead of my brother's life-destroying addiction. Your brother spoke highly of you, he said. Mentioned you're in tech, doing well for yourself. I'm not paying his debts, I said immediately. Just want to make that clear. Of course not. We wouldn't expect that, but perhaps we can discuss alternative arrangements. Long story short, they offered me a deal. If I could guarantee half the total amount, $26,500 within 6 months, they'd forgive the rest and leave my family alone. If not, the full amount would be due with interest and things would get complicated. I had the money. Not easily, and it would wipe out my savings and emergency fund, but I had it. The question was, should I enable my brother's addiction by bailing him out or let my parents lose everything to teach him a lesson? I spent 3 days agonizing over this decision. Called in sick to work, barely ate, just sat in my apartment staring at my bank account and trying to figure out what the right thing to do was. In the end, it wasn't really a choice. I couldn't let my parents suffer for Jake's mistakes. They're in their 60s, Dad's health is declining, they don't have time to recover from financial ruin. So I paid. $26,500. Gone, just like that. I met Suit Guy at a coffee shop downtown, handed him a cashier's check, and watched him verify the amount on his phone. Pleasure doing business with you, he said, shaking my hand like we just closed a real estate deal. Your brother's debt is settled. We won't be contacting your family again. And that was it. No dramatic confrontation, no threats, just a business transaction that cost me my entire financial safety net. I didn't tell my parents what I'd done. As far as they know, Jake somehow managed to negotiate a better deal with his creditors. I figured they had enough stress without knowing their older son had just bankrupted himself to clean up their younger son's mess. But I did tell Jake. His reaction wasn't what I expected. Instead of gratitude or relief, he seemed almost disappointed. You didn't have to do that, he said. I was working on a plan. What plan? Borrowing more money from Mom for therapy? That was a mistake, but I had some leads, some games coming up where I could have made the money back. And that's when I realized the horrible truth: paying off his debt hadn't solved anything. It had just reset the game board. Within a week, Jake was talking about small bets again, just to get some spending money. He'd learned nothing from nearly getting our family destroyed. The intervention happened 2 weeks later. Me, Mom, Dad, and Jake's ex-girlfriend Emma, who I'd called for backup, all sitting around that same dining room table where this nightmare started. We laid it all out. The lies, the stolen money, the danger he'd put everyone in, my financial sacrifice. We begged him to get real help, to check into a residential treatment program, to take this seriously. Jake listened to everything, nodded at all the right moments, promised he understood how serious this was. Then he asked if he could borrow $40 for gas. That's when I knew we'd lost him. It's been 3 months since then. Jake went to exactly 2 therapy sessions before deciding he was cured. He's living back with our parents because he got evicted for not paying rent. Guess what he spent the rent money on? Mom and Dad are walking on eggshells around him, afraid that being too strict will push him away or make him do something desperate again. I've tried explaining that enabling him isn't helping, but they won't listen. Last week, Dad found out that money was missing from his wallet again, just $20, but still. Jake claimed he borrowed it and forgot to mention it. I'm done. I've told my parents that I love them and I'll always be there for them, but I can't be around Jake anymore. It's too painful watching him destroy himself and take everyone down with him. Tuesday family dinners are canceled indefinitely. The thing that kills me is that Jake is still my little brother. The same kid I taught to ride a bike, who used to follow me around like a puppy, who called me his hero when we were kids. That person is still in there somewhere, buried under layers of addiction and denial and lies. But I can't save him. I learned that the hard way 26 grand later. Some people in the comments are going to say I should have let him face the consequences, that paying his debt just enabled his addiction. They're probably right, but I couldn't watch my parents lose everything because of his choices. Other people will say I should keep trying, that family never gives up on family. They're probably right too, but I don't have anything left to give. I'm posting this because I need people to understand gambling addiction doesn't just destroy the addict. It takes down everyone around them. It turns family dinners into hostage negotiations and forces impossible choices on people who love you. If someone you know is showing signs of gambling addiction, get them help immediately. Don't wait for rock bottom, because sometimes rock bottom has a basement. And if you're struggling with gambling yourself, please get help before you destroy the people who love you. There are resources, there are people who understand, there are ways out that don't involve stealing from your family's medical fund. I miss my brother. I miss my family dinners. I miss feeling like we could get through anything together. But mostly, I miss feeling like I could trust the people I love most. Thanks for reading this novel, Reddit. I needed to get it out. Update: a lot of people are asking about my parents and whether they're okay. Financially, they're struggling but managing. Dad's surgery got rescheduled and insurance covered most of it. Mom picked up extra hours at work. They're survivors. Emotionally. That's harder to answer. They're heartbroken but trying to stay hopeful. They still believe Jake can change, that this is just a phase he'll grow out of. I hope they're right, but I'm not holding my breath. Jake is still living with them, still occasionally borrowing small amounts of money, still talking about getting back on his feet. He's also still gambling, though he's gotten better at hiding it. As for me, I'm rebuilding my savings slowly. It'll take a couple years to get back to where I was financially, but I'll survive. The emotional toll has been harder to recover from. Some of you suggested therapy for myself, and I actually took that advice. It's helped me understand that I can't control other people's choices, even when those choices hurt everyone around them. I still love my brother, but I love myself enough now to protect my own well-being too. Thanks again for all the support, Reddit. You guys are the best.